Hello and welcome. We're diving into the new frontiers of conflict. Now, what if I told you that a battlefield could be as small and personal as the space between your own thoughts, or as huge and empty as the vacuum of space itself? It's true. From a war fought inside one person's mind to the strategic chess game that's playing out in orbit, the very definition of a battleground is expanding. Let's get into it. It sounds totally disconnected, right? A lone gunman's horrific attack on Park Avenue, and a military satellite quietly circling the Earth. I mean, on the surface, they have absolutely nothing in common, but they are both symptoms of how modern conflicts are being fought in places we never, ever expected. So let's follow the thread that somehow ties these two incredible stories together. So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll dig into the internal war that exploded into a public tragedy. Then we'll zoom way out to look at the new front line opening up in space and how countries are getting ready for a conflict that used to be pure science fiction. Okay, so our story begins not on some distant, traditional battlefield, but with a war that was fought entirely inside one man's head. And it's only because of a note he left behind that we can even begin to piece together the internal conflict that drove him to do the unthinkable. This one sentence, found in a 3-page suicide note, it just gives you a chilling look into his headspace. You can't go against the NFL. They'll squash you. He genuinely saw himself in a war against this massive, unbeatable force. But what exactly was this fight all about? The root of his grievance was something called CTE. It's a degenerative brain disease that's linked to getting hit in the head over and over again. The gunman, a former high school football player, was absolutely convinced he had it. And in his mind, he blamed the NFL for covering up the risks just to protect its image. That obsession, well, that became the battlefield inside his own skull. And tragically, that internal war, it was about to spill out into the real world. It resulted in a devastating and, as we'll see, a totally misguided attack right in the heart of New York City. It all happened terrifyingly fast. After driving all the way from Las Vegas, he walks into 345 Park Avenue, where the NFL headquarters are. But in the chaos of the lobby, where he shot and killed 3 people, he made a critical, fatal mistake. He got on the wrong elevator. It took him up to the 33rd floor to the offices of Rude Management. There, he killed one more person before turning the gun on himself. 4 innocent people lost their lives. This wasn't just a number in some bigger war. It was the entire, devastating human cost of one man's private battle. And this is where the whole thing becomes so senseless. His target was an organization, the NFL, but his victims, they were real people who had nothing to do with his grievance: an off-duty police officer, a Blackstone executive, a security guard, and a Rudin management employee. The violence was completely disconnected from its own twisted logic. An internal war, an invisible battlefield. Hold on to that idea. Because at the exact same time all this is happening, another invisible battlefield is being prepped for conflict. This one is global, it's geopolitical, and it's happening hundreds of miles above our heads. Yeah, we're going to space. Just listen to this quote from General Stephen Whiting, the head of U.S. Space Command. It is so blunt and clear. We now have a combatant command focused on warfighting in space. Let that sink in. This isn't a future what-if scenario. The United States has officially said that space is no longer just a peaceful place for science. It's now considered a potential war zone. So what's pushing this massive shift? Well, the U.S. is pointing to specific moves by its rivals. They see China and Russia building up their counterspace abilities at an incredible speed. We're talking everything from satellite-killing weapons and jammers to, and this is terrifying, the potential for nuclear weapons parked in orbit. The fear is that the systems we all depend on, GPS, communications, you name it, could be taken out or held hostage. The strategy here is a classic one: deterrence. The idea isn't to start a war in space, no way. It's to build up such a powerful and visible military presence there that any rival would be too scared of the consequences to ever throw the first punch. It's basically a high-stakes game of galactic chess. So what does this galactic deterrence actually look like in practice? let's break down the real, concrete steps the US is taking to get ready for a conflict that, honestly, used to be the stuff of movies. And this is not just talk. In late 2024, the US and France teamed up for a military exercise in orbit. They worked together to fly their satellites very, very close to another country's satellite. This wasn't some accident or a scientific mission. It was a carefully choreographed power play, a clear signal of Allied strength in space. That kind of move is called an RPO, a rendezvous and proximity operation. It's insanely difficult to pull off. It takes incredible control. So when you do it, especially with an ally, you're sending an unmistakable message. You're basically saying, hey, look, we can get right up next to your most valuable things in space whenever we want, and we can work together to do it. So this whole new strategy really boils down to 4 key steps. First, you publicly say we're ready to fight in space. Second, you actually build the weapons to back that up, things like orbital interceptors. Third, you bring your friends along, integrating allies into your combat plans. And finally, you use every bit of tech you can get your hands on, from AI planners to commercial satellites, so you can see absolutely everything that's happening up there. So there you have it. A battlefield can be the fragile space inside a person's skull, or it can be the endless vacuum between the stars. One conflict is driven by paranoia and a sense of injustice. The other is driven by global strategy and fear. But both of them show us that the very nature of war is expanding into new, unseen territories. As our world gets more and more complex, the real question isn't if new battlegrounds will appear, but where. And what on earth will they look like?
It's detox time, because you deserve better.